We've been hearing about this a lot lately. A weekend shark attack along the north coast has divers rethinking safety.
Now the experts say that shark attacks are rare, but the problem with this is someone forgot to tell these sharks
that they're
because
rare.
we really have had a lot of sightings and now an attack.
It certainly isn't the place where a diver would like to be. They say it's rare, but it does happen. Divers say you can spend a lifetime exploring the ocean and never see a great white. But a man in Santa Rosa has stitches in his face from a close-up encounter that proves seeing a great white once might be the only time you see a shark.
Get the twist and take her on, dude. Face the other way. Yeah, there you go.
The step out of our dry, usually safe world can be a dangerous one. Once out of their element, though, these divers feel safe.
It's kind of scary, but you just got to go in and not think about those things, I guess, and worry about it when it happens.
These people are just learning how to dive, and they have considered the risk.
You're rolling dice on the day you're born. What the heck?
Rod Orr knows about the risk.
He just clamped his head onto my face. It came onto like this, and it had me inside of its mouth.
Stitches show the results of a weekend encounter with a shark.
Get next to your buddies. The whole time here. Let's go. Find your buddies.
But experts assure us the danger's minimal.
I think that people would be very surprised to find that sharks are not the fearsome, raging, cold-blooded killers that they're portrayed to be in movies and theater.
To make that underwater world safe, divers say even the most experienced should show caution.
Experienced divers say sharks are just as scared of us as we are of them. And if you don't show aggressive behavior, they shouldn't attack.
As
If I
afraid
saw a
of
shark, I wouldn't show that.
as afraid of us as we are of them. I don't know
I don't
about some of
know.
these experts you talk to, Al. Rod Orr, if he's not the luckiest guy in the world, he's in the top 5. Was he showing aggressive behavior?
He says not, and his explanation is that he looked like a seal. That's what sharks like to eat. He was on a board. I guess when you put your hands out, they look like fins. He says he was on the surface of the water, and the next thing he knew, the shark grabbed him, pushed him around the water 20 feet.
Wow. And then just let him go?
He hit him, let him go.
Well, see,
They say if you hit him in the snout, right?
just had to ask nice.
But he hit him more than once.
Oh, I tell you what, I don't want to get close enough to hit him in the snout,
that's
for sure.
The 10 o'clock news.
Smokers here in Sacramento say the city council is going too far, intruding in their lives and denying them their civil rights. Tonight, city council members deciding exactly where people can and cannot smoke. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Crandall.
And I'm Lorraine Woodward. The city of Sacramento is on the verge of approving one of the toughest smoking bans in the country. Council members are expected to vote on that ban tonight. And our Al Lundeen is at City Hall. Al, is there a vote yet?
Lorraine, there hasn't been a vote yet, but right now they're hearing public testimony here at City Hall. But they do expect some kind of vote tonight before midnight. The smoking ban would outlaw smoking in the workplace, in restaurants, in recreation areas. But there's already a move to keep that ban from becoming law in the form of a petition drive. People are gathering signatures, and if they qualify, they could qualify for a referendum, which calls for a public vote. And while we wait for a public vote, any ban voted and approved on tonight would be put on hold.
Lighting the issue before the council meeting tonight, smokers gathered on the steps of City Hall.
I'd have probably been 7 foot if I hadn't started smoking at 8. That's when I started smoking 8 years ago.
Is that right?
They are proud of their habit, and they have found an ally in restaurant owners.
I think there's a lot of people, smokers and non-smokers alike, that are tired of city government and county government dictating to them what has to be done in their businesses.
Sacramentans for a fair business policy circulate a petition that with enough signatures could stall the proposed smoking ban while we wait for an election. But those favoring the ban say they will prevail.
Over 78% of the population, of the adult population, are non-smokers. And all we see happening with a possible referendum is that what is best for the health of this community may have to be delayed.
City council members clearly favor the ban. The issue for them has been whether a ban should go into effect in 30 days, like most city ordinances, or 3 years, like the recently approved county smoking ban.
So be it.
So be it.
Then
Smoker Mike Love says voters should make the decision, not public officials.
I think the people who are involved, the people who are paying the taxes in the county, the people who are spending their money in the county for entertainment, for food, for housing, and everything else should have a say on things that...
The smoking ban is expected to get approval tonight, so then the next step that could involve you would be that petition drive. If it qualifies and calls for a public election, a special election would have to be called in Sacramento, city, and county. You'd have to vote on that before April.
Al, if it does pass, the smoking ordinance passes, one possibility, as you've already mentioned, is the petition drive, and then we see it on the ballot. Any talk about court action as well? Might this thing end up in the courts at some point?
Perhaps that would make sense once it would go through a voting process. There's really, at least that's not a sticking point that has been reached yet. There is some question about uniformity between the city and the county. As you know, the county is asked and approved for a smoking ban, phase it in over 3 years. The city tonight is considering instant smoking ban, which through their system happens in 30 days. They're looking for some middle ground between those two stages.
Thank you, Al. Al Lundeen live at City Hall, and when that vote is in, if it is...
First at 10, the Valley's #1 primetime news. The 10 o'clock news.
Everything is back to normal inside the Sheriff's Department Communications Center, but it was a very different story earlier this evening. A worker accidentally switched off the main electrical breaker for the entire building. That caused the 911 system to go down for 15 minutes. Good evening, I'm Lorraine Woodward.
And I'm Jim Crandall. This all happened tonight shortly before 6 o'clock. A worker who was unloading some equipment inside a power room at the Sheriff's Department accidentally bumped his cart into the main switch, and that did it, cut off all the power. The emergency generator didn't go on, didn't sense the failure since there was still power coming into the building. A small battery backup unit did kick on and provide enough power to operate some of the 911 phones. And then about 7 o'clock, county electricians were finally able to fire up the main generator. But at that point, for some reason, all the 911 phone lines went busy, even though no one was calling in.
We have not cleared that up yet. The engineers and our electrical people here are going to be looking into that. We have a special person also who works our computer systems and our 911 systems. And the telephone company, they have staff here also, and we're trying to discover what caused that.
Pac Bell repairmen were finally able to restore the 911 system at about 7:15. Of course, at about the same time, the building's main power was turned back on. Sheriff's officials say there's no way to find out how many 911 calls they missed tonight, if they missed any during that 15-minute shutdown. They did tell us it had been fairly quiet there tonight at the dispatch center. And the sergeant told us he's sure now that someone in his department will try to find a way to make sure the main power switch can't be accidentally turned off again. Well, the situation in Kuwait these days is more than just an emergency situation. It is desperation of the first magnitude. That was the message today a group of United States congressmen heard about human rights. There's no such thing anymore as human rights in Kuwait. Both Kuwaiti citizens who managed to make it out after Iraq's invasion and Americans who were held in Kuwait for a time when Saddam Hussein took over told the congressman today horror stories of what it's like there now. Jan Fisher has our report.
It was once called an oasis, and